Okay, so in our last episode, we kind of talked about the plumbing, right? The foundational plumbing of global finance or modern finance in this replacement of trust with collateral, okay? But a foundation really is useless without a building, right? What are we making plumbing for if there's no walls around us? So today we're going to enter basically the operating system of finance. It's equivalent to that, and it's the world of shadow banking, okay? The analyst Zoltan Pozsar, Zoltan Pozsar, he defined this is best defined as a money market funding of capital market lending. This will make sense later, but a system of credit creation, right? That happens outside traditional regulation is basically what this is. You know, there's no, it's called shadow banking for a reason. But really, we can come to, of course, another kind of axiom or law. This one's more of an axiom than a law, but a globalized financial system, at least if you follow its logical consequences, it should demand credit elasticity. Okay? Beyond the confines of domestic regulation. What does that mean? So if the world runs on dollars, right, and this system creates them far from the shores of the United States, it's built on instruments like something we call Eurodollars. Okay? This is the offshore stock of dollars. And it's two key mechanisms that create the flow. So we'll talk a little bit more about this concept of Eurodollars. But so how does this? Let's talk about collateral reuse first. So how does this system create such a massive elasticity, right? How do we create elasticity? Well, the first engine is the reuse of the collateral. And this is a practice that we know, or we have a name for it. It's called Rehypothecation. Okay? Rehypothecation. Kind of a big word. But this is basically just collateral reuse. Just think about it like that. We're reusing the collateral. So imagine a simple, U.S. Treasury bond. It doesn't just sit there, right? It's moving. So, we can think about something like a pension fund. Okay, let's say we have a pension fund. It lends USD to hedge fund. Oh, God. Okay. This is USD to hedge fund, and then hedge fund will pledge the USD to dealer, right? And then the dealer, and of course it's pledging the USD, right? Because it made an agreement, right? So it's using the plumbing system, but then the dealer, repledges the same USD to. This is UST, I'm sorry. These are all treasuries that are being moved around, okay? Hopefully that makes more sense now, okay? We're moving the treasuries around, basically. And let's say this is a money market fund. I think you get the point. right? And the money market fund, is going to use it for its own funding. So this is what we call in finance a collateral chain. Okay, or almost like a chain of promises, if you will, right? In some way. One pristine treasury bond, right? It's pristine. It's the highest, form of settlement, right? It can be pledged over and over, and supporting a much larger, pyramid of credit. And it's the source then of the system's incredible leverage, right? We can leverage so much, and we'll see that it's also inherently fragile. So very, very fragile. So we'll talk about, 1 unit of collateral, right? 1 unit of collateral, gives us, multiple units of credit. Okay? We can't really quantify this, but we can suppose this, right? Okay. The second engine of elasticity, right? So this is the first one, which is just collateral chain. Second element of elasticity is the FX swap. Okay. The foreign exchange swap. This is how the system creates dollars for global players who don't have them. Okay? So, we want to use this to create dollars for people who don't have it. So while the repo is borrowing dollars with dollar collateral, okay, and a foreign exchange swap is borrowing dollars with foreign currency as collateral. It's like a synthetic, you can think of this as a synthetic dollar loan, okay? So let's say today, a European bank, a Euro bank, okay, they give euro to Fed, okay, and they get in turn dollar. All right. Well, in future, sorry, I sound like a caveman, but bank returns. The bank returns this guy dollar, and but it also has to return plus interest. Okay, let me write this closer over here. I just need to be neater. So there's that. So they have dollar plus interest, right? To the Fed again. And the pattern, of course, is that the Fed will give them this plus interest back. Okay? So it's a 2-part kind of transaction. It's an exchange of currencies today and a guaranteed reversal in the future. Now, that's the definition of a currency swap or a foreign exchange swap. The price difference between the two exchange rates is the implied interest rate for borrowing dollars, right? And so this is, and of course this is the implied interest rate, and this is all what we call offshore dollar supply, right? And this expands, and there's contracts as well for offshore dollars, okay? So this brings us then to what is arguably the single most important price in global finance, which is something that we call the cross-currency basis. What this is well, in a perfect world, the cost to borrow dollars, right, via swap, right, it should be predictable in some sense. So the basis is the tiny difference. Okay, the basis is the tiny difference between the theoretical cost and the actual market cost. Okay, So you can think of this as, an equation. Let's say basis is equal to market cost minus theoretical. Okay? So market cost minus theoretical cost. That's the basis. Okay? And so when the basis turns really negative, okay? If the basis turns really negative, that means the theoretical cost is, it's a lot bigger than the market cost. It's not a technical glitch, right? This is a fire alarm, all right? And so if there's a negative basis, if it goes negative, this guy goes negative, that means there is a global dollar shortage. Okay? So negative basis means that somebody is willing to pay a huge premium to get their hands on US dollars right now. Okay? It's a direct real-time measure of global funding stress. And it's actually the most sensitive seismograph for the health of the entire system, right? So that's a good way to think about it, as a seismograph. So let's take a step back though. Okay, let's take a step back. This is a privately created, unregulated dollar system, and it is incredibly efficient in good times, and it lubricates global trade. All right? So we have layer 2, or L2. Okay. But its very nature, right? Its reliance on long, fragile collateral chains, right? These collateral chains, makes it inherently unstable. As you could definitely see, that might not end up being the best thing. So it creates too much credit, right? In booms, but it also vanishes in crisis when we really need it. So the fragility of the system is its fatal flaw, right? So it's efficient but fragile. All right? And so this inherent instability will then, create absolute necessity for public entities to step in during a panic, right? This is the reason why we need a backstop. And so, of course, the global system, it demands elastic credit. Okay? The global system will demand this elastic credit, and the mechanism are to use this are the collateral reuse and synthetic dollar creation via foreign exchange swaps, or just in general, it's rehypothecation and forex swaps. Okay, just reusing the collateral and swapping it. Okay, with different, offshoring it with some implied interest rate. All right. Now the key price to watch here is the cross-currency basis, because it literally tells us whenever the global, it's basically an indicator for the global dollar shortage, right? So, of course, a key price is the cross-currency basis, all right? And the result, of course, is an efficient but fragile system that, of course, will all necessitate our next topic, which is the ultimate arbiter or judge, is the control layer, right? So what we need to have now is some new layer that controls everything. Okay, we need to control the wholesale funding and shadow banking. Okay, so just to go back, right? The globalized financial system demand credit elasticity beyond the confines of domestic regulation. Right? It's an efficient, open, free market, but it's fragile. All right. So